Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky, and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Lucky Life podcast. It has been a minute since we last caught up, almost a year actually, and I'm sorry for ghosting you. I'm sorry for going on a break and not communicating it well. I honestly am very much the Ross in this situation, if you get this reference. But we're back. We're back from our break, and I'm excited to be back. I'm also very nervous, just admitting that right from the get-go. I'm very nervous to be back. I have my emotional support pillow on my lap, and I want to tell you guys more about why I took this break, what I learned during the break, what's been going on in my life, and where I see the podcast going. I want to touch a little bit on all those things. Obviously, I'm not going to go super deep today because this is the first episode back, and I have had a whole year and lots of things that I've learned that I want to share. But I'm trying to be better at keeping it streamlined and having some better structure instead of just throwing everything at you at once. So let's give that a shot. All right. Let's first talk about the break and why it happened, what the motivation was, because it was never actually meant to be so long. It was never meant to be such a long break. But, if you follow me on the podcast Instagram, about a year ago, I posted saying that I was going to be taking a little bit of time and putting more space between episodes because the podcast had sadly kind of started to feel like a chore and I was losing some joy out of it. And I knew I needed some space to reflect and take a step back to see how I was feeling about it. And if you guys have been following the podcast for a while or me, you'll know that the whole point of this podcast and the reason I started it was because I wanted to figure out who I was. And I know how that sounds so cliche. And what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I started this at a time where I was laid off from my job and knew that something in my life wasn't working and that I needed to really step away from it to figure out what those things were and what direction I wanted to go in. And me stepping away from the podcast was me doing that again and me saying, okay, something isn't working here. And I need to take a step back and reflect instead of just forcing it and keep going on a path that wasn't quite authentic to me anymore. Like, there were pieces of it that were right and that I really liked, but there was a whole lot of it that didn't feel right. And so the space helped me figure that out. But like I said, it was never meant to be so much space. So yeah, the space just kept getting bigger and bigger and the excuses kept piling up. And until I had to confront it, people were asking me when are you posting a podcast? And I was kind of like, oh, soon, or I don't know, and I think I finally had to confront it and say, okay, why am I really not doing this podcast? And getting to that point was hard because I had this shame narrative in the background that I kept going back to. And the podcast is certainly not the only thing that I've done this with. I have lived with this narrative for a lot of my life. The narrative basically says, look, another thing that you started that you failed at, another thing that you fell off the horse and you can't finish. And because of this, because of your inability to stick with anything that you start, you're never going to amount to anything in your life. And I didn't want that voice to win. And I also was in denial of the possibility that it could be true. So I avoided it, I just kept suppressing it and pushing it away until I was like, okay, I need to face this. And this is something that I've been working on with my therapist in other areas of my life, like sticking with yoga, sticking with journaling, whatever it may be. I have that ugly narrative come up a lot. And we've been working on. When these things do happen, when I do fall off, when I go on a really good stretch of going to yoga so many times a week and then I fall off, instead of going straight to that narrative, catching it and saying, okay, I see you. I know where you're coming from. I know you're not necessarily based on reality. And instead, ask myself with a lens of compassion, why? Why did I stop going to yoga? Why have I not started the podcast again? And I had to really think about that. And like I said earlier, there were things that weren't working for me with the podcast. I felt like I was giving so much of my energy to it and also not enough energy at the same time. I needed to really also ask myself again and check in with myself again as to what the purpose was. Because I think also when I started it, I felt a lot more of a need to have a voice, as I felt I was put in this box because of all of this stuff with Mirror Girl. And I don't feel that way as much anymore, but I also still have this longing to use my voice more, connect with people more, and do something more with this platform. It's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect, and it's not everything. Like there were things missing in my life. The podcast was a great step, but it wasn't everything. Yoga also is a piece of me, but it's not everything. So taking a step away from the podcast allowed me to see, okay, what might be missing in my life? What more do I need? What more do I want? This is my big update. So with that time to think about it, it was, I think, last summer, the idea of me becoming a therapist came up. And I have thought about it before, but never in a serious way. I wrote it off, thought it was not a possibility. And I also had this narrative and I had this doubt come up where it was like, is this just going to be one of those things that I want to start and never follow through with? Like, why is anybody going to want to take me seriously? But at this time, because of my past, because of these things that if I had never tried and failed at, like becoming a yoga teacher, becoming a life coach, starting this podcast, because I was starting to get to know myself better and I had tried those things, I was ready to hear it. And I did some research. I found out that it wasn't as much school as I thought it would be. And I brought up the idea to my parents, and they were amazing. They were super supportive. I feel really, really lucky to have that, because I was obviously nervous about this. Like, I want to change my path entirely. So that made it a lot easier for me to entertain it as well. I don't know if I would have been able to if I didn't have their support. So I looked into it, but I was like, I'm about to move. I'm about to move states. My boyfriend and I were about to move to Florida. I kind of skipped right over that, and we can talk about that maybe another episode, but the important thing here is this update. So I was like, let me move. I can't like think about this right now, but I'll do research until I move, and then I will come back to this. So then we moved and started applying to school. I narrowed it down, and I knew I wanted to go to social work. There's two avenues if you want to become a therapist. Mainly, you can do mental health counseling or you can do social work. And after doing ample research, I decided I wanted to do the master's in social work route. So I narrowed it down to two schools that I was going to apply to. And since I don't have much social work experience and I'm pivoting completely, I knew there was a very high likelihood that I may not get in. And that's okay. That was something I was okay with, because I was like, you know what? If I don't get in, I will spend the next year building my resume and doing more and different things, and then I will go out again next year. But obviously, the sooner the better. When you know what you want to do with your life, why wait? Like, I was ready to start. So I applied and I got in, and I'm really excited and I'm grateful. And again, it kind of feels like validation from the universe that I am on the right path. I know we talked about it, and I feel like even sometimes in past episodes, I was like trying to convince myself that the podcast was my path. But now I feel so much more clear that it's a piece. It's a piece of the path. And that may change again, okay? But that's okay. So I'm really excited for this new chapter. It's going to be a lot. And I'm honestly like, I want to let you guys in on more of this. I want to be more vulnerable about what I'm learning. I hope that I can become somebody that you guys can rely on and come to and relate to. I want to be more of me here. I want to show you more of me and tell you more about me. And I want to share the different sides of me and not worry as much about what people think and who I'm offending or whatnot. I want to use my platform to talk about the things that I care about and connect with you, connect with people. So hopefully in the weeks and months to come, there will be some more episodes. I can't promise a schedule, but I definitely am going to take it upon myself to make sure that I'm still keeping up with it in a way that feels authentic to me. We'll take it one day at a time, but I'm really grateful for all the grace and patience that you guys have given me while I have taken this break. Starting again was the hardest part, and I've really had to work up the courage to do this. But here we are. I'm back. I do want to do this. It does still serve me, and I hope in some way it serves somebody else. I know this is not perfect. I know I already am like becoming hyper aware of the points in this podcast where I started one topic and I went to another one and I didn't finish a thought. And that's something I really want to work on and get better at, but all in time. Let me know what else you'd like to see or hear from me, and stay tuned. Keep your eyes peeled. If you follow me on Instagram, like I said, I plan on posting more content and being more of myself. So I hope you stick around for that. And I will see you next time. Hopefully that's very soon. Thank you for your patience and for being there for me. I love you guys. Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky, and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too.